Hello, my name is Whitney Johnson, and I will be analyzing the article The Whistleblower by Ross Kerber. I'll begin by summarizing the article. It talks about Harry Markopoulos, who in 1991 joined Rampart Investment Management, which was a firm that specialized in the trading of options. In 2000, Markopoulos was given the assignment to match the returns of a man named Bernard Madoff. Madoff was a competitor of the firm and an outrageously famous and successful investor. Markopoulos stalked Madoff via computer analysis and attempted to duplicate his strategy, but to no avail. It seemed Madoff made money whether the stock markets went up or down. This, in addition to Madoff's lack of losses, let Markopoulos believe that he was dealing with a Ponzi scheme. Markopoulos began sending memos to the SEC. Though his memos were ignored at first, Markopoulos continued sending them, even after he left Rampart to begin his own business. Initially, Markopoulos was motivated by the promise of receiving compensation from the government for his efforts. When he discovered that no whistleblower bounty would be given him, he continued anyway in his efforts. In 2005, Markopoulos sent the SEC a culmination of his analysis in a memo titled "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." Finally, the SEC listened, and Madoff was brought to justice. Now I will describe how Markopoulos followed the IMA Resolution of Ethical Conflict steps outlined in our textbook and Badaracco's guidelines in We Don't Need Another Hero. In terms of confidence, Markopoulos performed professional duties in accordance with relevant laws, regulations, and technical standards. He was the math whiz in the office at Rampart and was the expert given the assignment to match Madoff's returns. In recognition of his limitations and constraint, Markopoulos stated in the article, "I wasn't good enough or smart enough to outmaneuver the SEC. The press wasn't listening to me, and I had no other avenue." Referencing Markopoulos' confidentiality, Kerber states that Markopoulos prefers to work with a degree of anonymity and is often quiet and analytical. Markopoulos began sending memos to the SEC once his suspicions about Madoff were confirmed, but he didn't immediately alert the press or any other channels. He attempted to remedy the situation using the resources and outlets that he had available to him. He didn't feel the need to make a fuss about it. He additionally refrained from using any confidential information for unethical or illegal advantage. Markopoulos' integrity is also noted. Though the SEC initially ignored him, he continued to send memos. Though Markopoulos had hoped to collect a bounty for being a whistleblower, when it was evident that he would not receive any money, he continued to communicate with the SEC because it was the right thing to do. He also abstained from engaging in or supporting any activity or prejudice that might discredit the profession. For credibility, Markopoulos communicated information fairly and objectively, and disclosed all relevant information that could reasonably be expected to influence an intended user's understanding of the report's analysis or recommendations. Now, Markopoulos' whistleblowing story is unique because it involves a person blowing the whistle on another company, external company. Though Markopoulos and Madoff were in the same industry, it's not often you hear about someone blowing the whistle on another company. For this reason, not all of Badaracco's guidelines apply. First off, since Markopoulos was in charge of analyzing Madoff's strategy, I don't think he cried wolf the very first time he noticed a red flag. Markopoulos attempted to replicate Madoff's strategy again and again, meaning that he attempted it multiple times. It was only once Markopoulos hit an undeniable red flag that he began to contact the SEC. He was deliberate and took his time and made sure he was right. It doesn't seem like Markopoulos was one to follow Badaracco's second guideline, pick your battles, as after leaving Rampart, he started a business which had the purpose of uncovering financial fraud. This implies to me that Markopoulos had chosen to fight every battle that he came across, but I'm sure he didn't fight unwisely or recklessly. Similarly, the advice bend the rules, don't break them does not perfectly apply to this situation either. Since this wasn't an internal whistleblow, Markopoulos wasn't tempted to break or bend any rules necessarily. He was simply persistent in bringing the SEC's attention to this scam. Finally, with Find a Compromise, Rather than compromising, Markopoulos contacted the SEC until he was heard. This was a demonstration of determination rather than compromise, but in this case, Markopoulos made the right decision. And thus ends my analysis. Thank you very much.